Hiya, FlossTube. Julicious here. Happy New Year. It's January 16th, but better late than never, yeah? How are ya? Sorry I kind of disappeared in the middle of my Hanukkah vlog. I got sick, which I tend to do in the middle of December. Not like the flu or anything, because I got my flu shot. But just a nasty cold. You know, something that was obviously viral, so you just kind of had to wait it out. That was irritating. But c'est la vie. So I'm glad many of you enjoyed the Hanukkah vlog, and it just right now, Ingeborg, I promised you a dreidel demonstration. I will still do that. Soon. Don't know when, but soon. I start college tomorrow. So if I look like hell and I'm a little bit, that would be why. But onward, right? This is going to be a pretty quick video because I don't have that much to show you because I've only been working on very few things. But I'm happy with what I've worked on so far. And I have some Save the Stitches, and I have some books. So stick around. Not gonna keep you for too long. Lots of ums. I'm sorry. Yeah, let's get to it. New starts and whips. Well, what should I show you first? Do you want to see the Guardians of Notre Dame, Sal? Which is glorious. Brittany knocked it out of the park with this one, in my opinion. It's gorgeous. I had meant to have the frame completely done by now. I don't. I just have to finish filling in the gast. So that can pretty much be done whenever I have a free minute. I'm going to move the needle minder over here for now. So this is being done on the called for color of fabric. This is sterling from Picture This Plus. I chose to do this on a 36 count just because I'm kind of into tiny stitches lately. That is Josh texting me. He's in New York City right now. He's coming home tonight. You don't care. Anyway, so here's how it is. I did the first Guardian. Look at him. I love this so much. So here's the full piece. As you can see down in the corner there, that's where the gast has not yet been filled in. And I think I said last time that I thought I might need one extra skein of the gast. I bought one just to have, because a little insurance never hurts. I honestly don't think I'm going to need it. So if you are interested in stitching this piece on a 36 to 40 count fabric, I think you'd be able to get away with just one skein of the Gentle Art thread. Lower count fabrics still are going to need 2 to 3, but yeah. I will let you know when this is finished. I will let you know for sure, because watch me need like one single strand from the second skein to finish this. I will let you know, but I'm pretty confident that I'm going to be able to finish this with what I have remaining on the first skein. So show you him again because he's just so beautiful. I love it. If you haven't pulled the trigger on this yet, do it. It's mwah, love it. So yeah, that got worked on. I think I stitched him up in like 3 days. Yeah, so not long. And but that's all I focused on stitchy wise for those 3 days, but that's fine. If you have a, you know, if you have a lot of whips, like say Katie or Kate, Lisa, if you have multiple whips you stitch on in a day, it might take a little longer than 3 days, but if you don't, it's not terrible. So that's Guardians of Notre Dame. For the Full Coverage Fanatics winter quarterly stitch along, I started the Candleman Story Keep from Heaven and Earth Designs, and I can't remember the artist. The artist's last name is Christensen. I can't remember his first name. When I don't have look in my previous video, you will see the what it's going to look like when it's done. So I'm stitching this on white 25 count Lugana 2/1 tent stitch. And here's what I have done so far. And I think I need to change my method of approaching this a little bit because the fabric is starting to is pulling in a way that I don't particularly care for. And I had this first column, I just did this first column, and then when I did these 2 columns, I kind of sort of was branching out a little bit, sort of doing cross country, sort of not. I'm thinking I'm going to start approaching it the way Jessie Marie and Ann P have been approaching it, kind of doing the sort of staggered diagonal approaching, like stitching the squares in kind of like a diagonal pattern. So we'll see how that works. This was really tedious, but I actually really enjoyed it. I mean, you can see like that's a chimney. So I don't hate full coverage. I thought I was going to absolutely hate it, but I don't. It's actually pretty entertaining, and that's pretty cool. I'm not sure when I'm going to pick this up again. It's just, we're just going to see. Because this has taken up a lot of my time. And I was actually going to try and wait on this video because I am really close to my very first page finish. I will probably get that done today, if not tomorrow. But I really needed to get this video out. So here is most of page 1 of The Gamer. The artwork is by Medusa Dollmaker, and it's been charted by Gecko Rouge, and I purchased this kit on Etsy. And kudos and shout out to Pam Reed from Pam's Crafty Corner for her waist knot tutorial. Because when you're doing 1/1 on 25 count, it's been invaluable, Pam. Thank you so much for sharing that. Lots of confetti. Like you can see all of these colors for here, but it's worth it. I mean, look at that. So this is going to be a while. So when I first started this, I think back in October, I had done this bit and then in this column to about here. So since January 1st, I've done all of this and all of that. So it's about 1,500 stitches I put in January. I am not going to get a page finish every month. This is a total fluke. but it's a nice little confidence booster. Once I get my page finish on that, I'm putting it away for the rest of the month, and I'm going to pull out Nantucket Girl sampler because she needs some love. And then I heard about the Heart Drops movement, which, if you've watched Katie the Stash Queen's videos this year, which, let's face it, you probably already have, you know all about it. So I figured, well, I didn't need anything new to do with school and everything. But then I thought, well, little hearts stitched on perforated plastic, I can knock those out once in a while. So I ordered some perforated plastic, and I started some. And this has been a fun way. I have a handful, maybe 12 Jottery Designs cottons in my specialty thread stash, and this is a good way to actually play with them. So I have 1.5 hearts done. This is not a priority. Here they are. I'm going to put this behind them. On 14 count perforated plastic, this is a Purple Rain from Jottery Designs, and this one is in Sequoia from Jottery Designs. Quick brain candy, what have you. So that's the cross stitch. Yeah. Looking around at the piles of stuff. Not piles, small piles, clumps of things. Save the stitches. I've had one of them for about a month now, and if you follow me on Instagram, you've seen it. But my favorite coffee shop, the one that is, it's my neighborhood coffee shop, I practically live there. They also have like a little consignment corner. And I was poking around there while I was waiting for my food. This was probably back in October. And I spied this, which was stitched in 1984 by someone with the initials KHJ on what looks to be 14 count Aida. And I thought, I think it's lovely, and I think it would look really nice in either my dining room or my living room. Not quite sure. It's been, I mean, looks like it's been taped, honestly, to a piece of mat board, maybe. So I'll have to measure it and see if it'll fit a standard frame. If not, I don't know. If not, give me some ideas. But yeah, I like it. It's cute, and I was happy to find it. Also, if you recognize the pattern, let me know. The back stitching is really beautiful. This person knew what they were doing. So, one of the owners of the coffee shop, Lady Jean, she's my buddy. We were talking about that, and then last week, out of the blue, she says, "Hey, my friend made this for me years ago. I never did anything with it. I want you to have it because I know you'll give it some TLC and you'll take good care of it." And I was like, "Lady Jean, this is embroidery, and it needs a wash, it needs an iron, but look at this. Someone worked really hard on this. And it's just about pillow size, but I don't think I'm going to make it into a pillow just because I want to kind of preserve the stitches. I'm going to go in close so you can see. I recognize some of the stitches, but not nearly all of them. Yeah. So I need to figure out what I'm going to do with this. This will most likely get framed. Just, I kind of want it to be under glass. Since it's, I don't know, it just feels fragile to me. I don't know why. Anyway, so that was, I was very touched that she thought of me. And I will absolutely give that some love and give it a good home. Knitting. Knitting has been kind of slow this year. I am working on a pair of mitts for the Woolly Wonka Palooza for January, and I'm using some gray hand-spun alpaca, and I'm really worried that I'm going to run out of yarn before I finish the second mitt, and that's giving me a fair amount of anxiety, actually. So think of me. I just finished the increases for the thumb gusset. These are the Valkyrie mitts, designed by Ann P. over at Woolly Wonka Fibers. And so on my next round, I'm gonna put these stitches between my two fancy smancy stitch markers. They're gonna go on a piece of waste yarn so I can connect and then finish the top of the mitt, cast off, finish the thumb, and then hopefully start the second one. I'm really scared I'm gonna run out of yarn. I am scared, and if I do, I'm going to cry. Plain and simple. So, here's hoping. Yeah, I'm really worried about that. Really worried. And so, oh yeah, the January, for the Woolly Wonka Palooza, the January prompts are, the color is gray and the theme is lace. So this satisfies both. I've decided I'm not going to knit for February. February's, the color is pink, not my favorite, and the prompt is cowl. So I'm not going to knit. What I'm going to do is, if this qualifies for pink, this is the December Woolly Wonka Fibers fiber of the month for December of 2017, called Whoville. Very Seussian. So I'm going to spin this, and however many yards I get will be my yardage used for. So yeah, there are pinks in it. I don't know if there's enough for it to qualify. If not, I might spin it anyway just to get it spun, because I joined the fiber club again for this year, and if you don't spin your fiber, you end up with an excess of fiber, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's just my office is tiny enough as it is, and yeah, something's got to give. So that's the plan for February in Woolly Wonka Fibers. And where did this needle minder come from? I took it off of a project to show you, and I can't remember. Oh, Guardians. Hold on one sec while I put this back. Talk amongst yourselves. Rhode Island is neither a road nor an island. Discuss. That's an old joke. Really old. Okay. Books. I got some lovely books for Hanukkah, and I also wanted to try to do as much of a reading challenge, of the Goodreads reading challenge, this year as I can. I have a goal of reading 52 books. I probably will not achieve that goal, but I do want to read more. So my sister gave me 2 novels by Margaret Atwood for Hanukkah. And the first one I read before the turn of the year, so it does not count. However, maybe if you're doing the reading challenge, it will count for something for you. I would slate this under family because there's the warm, there's one of the topics is, you know, something warm like family, whatever. This could also, maybe you could stretch it for the prompt of a novel with an unusual structure. If you're playing loosey-goosey with it, I really don't see why not. What novel am I talking about? I'm talking about Hagseed by Margaret Atwood, which is her retelling of The Tempest by William Shakespeare. 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. So apparently Hogarth Press, Hogarth Shakespeare, has commissioned a bunch of contemporary authors to write modern reimaginings of Shakespeare's plays. And I am particularly looking forward to this year. The author I talked about a couple of videos ago, who wrote The Snowman, that was made into a movie, the murder mystery, he was tasked with reimagining Macbeth, which is one of my favorite plays of all time. Seeing that performed professionally live is like on my bucket list. That and The Crucible. Bucket list shows. I digress. So, I really like what she did with this. So there's, the main character and narrator is a gentleman named Felix, who is a down-on-his-luck director from the Toronto theater scene, or Toronto suburb theater scene. And he loses his job because he kind of goes into a bit of a downward spiral after the death of his young daughter. And he becomes obsessed with the play The Tempest and performing the play and directing the play The Tempest, and it being just like this opus, this magnum opus. Also as a way of him trying to work through grief. And the board of directors for the theater cans him. And so he packs up everything, leaves his house, finds this shack on the side of the road in rural Ontario, rents it, and lives like a hermit for like 12 years. After about 5 years, he's approached by a woman who's very heavily involved in prison reform in Canada. And she asks him if he would like to teach a theater class at a local prison. And he does. And he does that for about 6 years. And then he decides he wants his players to perform The Tempest. Hilarity ensues. Well, not hilarity. What I liked about this book is that Atwood, without being preachy about it, without hitting you over the head with it, Atwood is very clearly pro-prison reform. She very clearly sees incarcerated people as human beings who are complex, who've made mistakes, but who are still worthy of, a second chance. I thought she handled grief very well. I was very surprised. Pleasantly surprised by the ending. I really thought Felix was going to end up institutionalized because he hallucinates pretty bad throughout the book. And what's cool about it is she takes you through their production of The Tempest. So it very much is sort of another, in addition to this being a reimagining of a Shakespearean play, there's that other, for you theater geeks out there, there's the callback to Shakespeare of the play within a play thing that he used to do in his plays. So it's sort of like there's, a play within a play, if you will, here. 4 out of 5 stars. I had fun. I think if you like that sort of thing, if you're an Atwood fan, if you're a Shakespeare fan, if you're a theater geek, check it out. I talked for a while about that. I'm not very good at brevity is not one of my strong suits, you may have noticed. Second Atwood novel. Funny story here. I haven't finished it yet. Funny story as to why. So, Oryx and Crake. This I was using to satisfy my the book about surviving a natural disaster, apocalypse, whatever. Oryx and Crake, the main character is a dude who calls himself Snowman, who is most probably the last surviving human after a plague wipes most of us out. I'm going to burp. Excuse me. He's not the last surviving sentient sort of monkey-like being. Last surviving original human. And a lot of the novel is him reflecting back when he went by Jimmy, and he grew up in a series of compounds. It's very Orwellian, kind of 1984-ish, in that, sort of the important people live in these very idyllic kind of Stepford compounds, and everybody else lives out not there, and the folks who live in the compounds think, look down upon folks who don't, because they're disease-ridden and, animals. And Oryx and Crake are 2 of his friends. And I'm not explaining it very well because, see, the book is almost 400 pages long. I got to page 140. And when I got to page 140, let me show you. Okay, so here, I'll show you. Here, when you look at a book, on one side up here, there's the author's name, and then over here, you've got the title. When I got to page 140, and I read it, and I looked over at page 141, look at the book title. The Orphan Master's Son. Next page. The Orphan Master's Son. By Adam Johnson. Next pages. The Orphan Master's Son. By Adam Johnson. 30 pages of The Orphan Master's Son ended up in the middle of Oryx and Crake. And by the time I got back to Oryx and Crake, so I stopped on page 140. That was the last page of Oryx and Crake. By the time I am done with, by the time we get to the next one, page 175. 35 pages of novel missing. So I need to order a new copy so I can finish this, so I know what the hell's going on. Because the novel switches back and forth to the present, with Snowman living kind of in the jungle, and there are these sort of like, I don't want to call them clones. He calls them the children of Crake, genetically engineered beings, humanoid beings, I'm going to say, because I haven't found out. But he lives with them and he interacts with them, and they kind of treat him as the sort of like God prophet. Not God, the sort of like prophet-esque, eccentric madman. And I want to, I want to know how they're getting there, but I need to order a new copy so I can figure out what the hell. Because I can't just skip 35 pages and have any clue. Anyway, if that sounds at all interesting to you, yeah, pick it up. Let me know what you think. So, yeah, getting a new copy of that is on the to-do list. And in a few days, I zipped through another novel by Shirley Jackson. For Hanukkah, Josh picked me up this, Library of America collection of Shirley Jackson's work. She wrote The Haunting of Hill House, and she wrote the book that I just finished called We Have Always Lived in the Castle, which is a delightfully gothic tale, if you like unreliable narrators or narrators who are a little bit kind of just a teeny bit of a psychopath. Exaggerating for effect there. So, We Have Always Lived in the Castle. Very good little yarn. The narrator is Miss Mary Catherine Blackwood, known to her, those close to her, as Mary Cat. And she lives in a rambling old mansion with her sister, her older sister, Constance, and her uncle Julian, and they are ostracized from their community in their little town in New England. Because 6 years before, their parents, their younger brother, and Uncle Julian's wife were all poisoned to death because someone put arsenic in the sugar bowl at dinner. Julian was also poisoned, but he managed to survive and is in very, very bad shape. He has to use a wheelchair. He's incontinent a lot of the time. A lot of his behaviors remind me of Alzheimer's, but I don't think that that's what Jackson's going for. Anyway, Constance was accused of the murders and was tried and was acquitted. And since then, the Blackwood sisters and Uncle Julian have been these pariahs in the community, and they're pretty much housebound. Well, Constance is and Julian are housebound. Mary Cat goes to the village twice a week to go to the library and to do grocery shopping. And someone who claims to be a relative comes to visit them one day, and their world starts to fall apart. I love Shirley Jackson. I think she was brilliant. I had read a little bit about her recently. Her husband, I told myself that I've been trying to not swear as much in these videos because I know many of you have kids, but forgive me. Her husband was a piece of dog shit. Insisted like any royalties, money she made from her work had to go to him. Was a little insecure. What do you think? She had to take care of the house. She had to take care of the kids all by herself. And he could screw around as much as he wanted. And if she had a problem with that, well, that was her just being totally unreasonable. She was in her late 40s when she died. She was over-medicated. She obviously had depression and anxiety and, just self-worth issues. I can't imagine why. And this was the 60s, so, Doctors weren't really quite aware that barbiturates in quantity were not good for you, so yeah. It's really tragic, and I feel really bad for her, and her husband was the worst. But yeah, if you like Gothic novels, I would recommend both The Haunting of the Hill House and We Have Always Lived in the Castle. Oh, The Haunting of Hill House just made me so sad. I was rooting for Eleanor so much the entire time. She just couldn't catch a break. But that's what I have been reading. So for school, I've got about a 20 to 25 minute drive each way, and so I need to decide on an audiobook to keep me company. I have a few ideas. If you have suggestions, please let me know. I have purchased It by Stephen King, because that's one Stephen King novel I keep meaning to, it's one of those books I keep meaning to read it and then getting distracted. So I bought that audiobook. I haven't seen the new movie yet. I haven't seen The Last Jedi yet. I know, take my geek card away. We haven't had time. And our sitters are all sick, and it's bad. Hang on, I'm pulling up my Audible account right now so I can actually share with you. No, I can't do that. So, I have It, I have Hidden Figures, I have H is for Hawk, I'm so sorry. La 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 la. My library, my books. Okay. I have The Woman in White by Wilkie Collins. That's a long one. Hidden Figures, I mentioned. It, I mentioned. H is for Hawk, I mentioned. And Narrative of the Life of Frederick Douglass, an American Slave. Yeah, a whole bunch of very, very light-hearted books in my library right now. So we'll see. Suggestions welcome. That's pretty much all I have for you today, folks. Gonna pull this in under an hour. That's great. So videos are going to be kind of scarce this year. I'm going to try for one a month. And I also need to do sort of a FlossTube Retreat 2018 video thing. I'm still straightening out a couple of little details there, so watch for that. And yeah. So a few of you have contacted me privately about what it's like going back to college as having been away as an adult, and I'm happy to discuss that with you privately, but I was wondering if there would be any interest of me making a video just talking about that, what the process is, how I did it. Now, I will say, those of you who live in Europe and who have asked me about this, I don't know for sure how you guys would go about it, just given the way the higher education differs between the United States and other countries. But I am still happy to talk about it and give advice in video form if that is what you would like. So please let me know, and I would be happy to do so. I can't promise it will be done quickly, but I can promise you that it will get done. And so I'm pretty excited, scared excited, more excited than scared, which is the reverse of the way I was last week, so progress. And that's all I have. So I hope you're having a great start to your year, and I've been really enjoying seeing everybody's videos, and keep them coming. I'm going to try to get better about commenting and responding to comments too. We do what we can. So take care, folks. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and I will catch you around the internet, okay? Peace.